And we're live. We're back. Cole, we're back.
For number 5.
Number 5. It's been a lot of setup tonight, but we're finally getting around to our Big Fat News Roundup here on the Big Fat Podcast, our live stream edition. We're going to hit on some of the big stories this week. We're going to talk about Mangione. We're going to talk about this thing that's been going on at the subway in New York City tonight. Just happened. The massacre in Germany, this unfortunate, terrible event. We're also going to talk about... What else we talk about, Cole? I lost it.
The Wall Street Journal.
Wall Street Journal
Biden's
and
decline.
Biden's decline.
Yep.
Let's get right into it to our first story here on Mangione. Bada bing, bada boom. Maybe. I'm a little slow. I lost my... All right. Bam. Mr. Mangione, let's hear about you.
From Ivy League rich kid to inmate number 52503-511, that is Luigi Mangione's new identification inside the walls of Brooklyn's notorious Metropolitan Detention Center, commonly known as MDC. The 26-year-old is the latest high-profile inmate at the Federal Detention Center. Former inmates include sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell, Farmer Bro Martin Shkreli, and R. Kelly. Currently,
Did they call that guy Farmer Bro?
Yeah, Farmer Bro.
Who's Farmer Bro?
I have no idea.
I haven't heard anything on Farmer Bro.
I haven't either.
Okay.
Sean Diddy Combs is also being held there on federal charges, including sex trafficking and racketeering conspiracy. Mangione and Combs also sharing a lawyer, Mark Agnifilo, who is working on Mangione's case with his wife and lead counsel, Karen.
I'm going to try and minimize.
This guy's wife's name is Karen?
Yep.
How unfortunate. I feel bad for all the Karens out there. I mean, she's probably a nice lady, but her husband's an attorney, and she's a Karen.
And she's a Karen.
And did I catch that right? This guy is representing both Diddy and
Mangione?
Mangione?
Yeah.
Holy mackerel. I'm just trying to figure out how to, get the trash to the dump on time this week. You know?
Yeah, right.
Minimize the amount of time he spends in very, very difficult and I believe inhumane housing conditions in the special housing unit of the Metropolitan Detention Facility.
Agnifilo recently argued to move the music mogul before trial because of the conditions at MDC. While the department wouldn't confirm details of any specific inmate, policy shows upon arrival they undergo a 21-day evaluation to determine in what unit they will be held. Because Mangione's case is high profile, it's likely he will be housed in what's called the SHU, a unit where inmates are separated from the general population, largely for safety reasons.
His interactions will be limited. I think the oversight will be far more significant. I think he'll be subject to a lot less dangers.
We are pushing for basic humanity.
In recent years, inmates, attorneys, and activists have sounded the alarm on issues like violence, overcrowding, staffing shortages, even power outages. In September, a federal judge condemned the facility's conditions, prompting the Bureau of Prisons to appoint an urgent action team to, quote, take a holistic look at the challenges at MDC Brooklyn.
So it's a big deal, and I think that tells you all you need to know with respect to what's happening. Yeah, there.
As for Mangione, a Bureau of Prisons handbook outlines daily life behind bars, including a 6 a.m. wake-up call for breakfast, sweeping and mopping his cell, a new change of clothes 3 days a week, and a chance to shop in the commissary once every 2 weeks.
Isn't this so interesting? They're breaking down what his breakfast schedule is.
Yeah.
How he's going to be treated. I mean, they're just all about this guy. Isn't that kind of odd?
Like, he's a celebrity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he murdered somebody, so they say.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Okay.
Where he can buy candy bars, crossword books, and...
Oh, thank you for this. We found out this is where he can buy candy bars.
deodorant. In Pennsylvania, more than 150 donations were made to Mangione's commissary account.
Did you hear that? 150 contributions were made to his commissary account. People are just kicking money into his commissary account so he can buy stuff.
Are they going to say how much? Or do they say 150 contributions? So it could be like $1 million a contribution.
I have no clue.
Okay.
Bureau of Prisons won't comment on inmates' accounts. CNN has learned that commissary money that was in Mangione's account in Pennsylvania will be transferred to the Bureau of Prisons for Mangione. Also important to note, his attorneys in court said that they reserve their right to request bail in this case, possibly at a later date. Bryn Gingras, CNN, New York.
Joining us now is prison consultant Sam Mangel. Sam is in touch with members of Mangione's legal team.
I think before I hear what this guy has to say here. Mm-hmm. Now, I don't understand this. The people that are they supporting him knowing that he killed this guy, or are they supporting him thinking that he's innocent and he wasn't the shooter? Do you see what I'm saying?
I totally do. And I guess for me personally, I think they're supporting him because he killed the guy.
Yeah.
And there's a Robin Hood complex going on right now.
Yeah.
Not what you think?
I don't know.
Okay.
I can't figure people out. I don't. Because even if he did do it,
yeah,
I don't think he did it because he's a Robin Hood. I don't think, who knows? I'm just a guy, right? Sitting out here in small town America, right? I don't know. We don't know. We just go off of what people tell us.
Right.
But he didn't look like a guy who was upset that his grandma got her claim denied, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't an emotional thing for him. Yet the shells left behind have the words inscribed in them that everybody's getting tattooed on themselves now. He's standing up for all the little people. But I don't think he's standing up for all the little people. That was an emotionless hit. So I don't think this had to do about standing up for, some wrong to the little people. I think he was hired to hit. If that was him, because then, I don't know. Then you hear the people that are saying, his lawyer is saying that he's being set up and that he's,
right.
I don't know. I don't know who did it. But I don't think that it was because he is standing up for all the little people and how bad the insurance companies treat us. I just don't think it's that way at all.
Well, what do you think it is then?
Well, I don't know. I don't know all the facts, obviously, on this lawsuit that the CEO was about to testify on. Who was going to get burned on that? Was there a bunch of insider trading? I don't know all the details on that, but it sounds like he sold, and a few of his people, his friends, sold off a ton of stock, made a ton of money on it before United came out with some type of news that caused the stock to plummet. Everybody else takes a big loss, but he came out ahead. So now there was a lawsuit coming out, and I don't know. This is the rumor, right? That, unless I'm understanding the rumor wrong, let me know in the comments if you're in the comments. We got 8 viewers today.
Oh, no, we got 10.
We're on fire. So, but I feel like, or I think that it's a possibility here. He got whacked because of what is he going to say in testimony during, whatever this case, and who's going to go down, who's going to burn. So I think that's way more likely than Mangione being, emotionally all upset about how the insurance companies are screwing us all over, which they've all been doing for years, right? We all know that.
And we do, what his manifesto even said, or whatever he wrote on, said that he didn't even really understand how the insurance companies work and how the claim system works. He wasn't familiar with it. So I do see your point that maybe you're right. Maybe there's a little bit more to this story than what we're being fed.
But I think the masses, it's hey, it feels good to get behind a Robin Hood or somebody who you think is standing up for the little people. I think people get emotionally wrapped up into that too quick. All of the first news that comes out about something is usually about 90% wrong. It seems like, at least, right? You can watch the video, watch a crime happen, and then it's so easy to get emotionally wrapped up about that. And then you find out like a week later that most of all that information was wrong, and who you were rooting for was probably in the wrong. So I don't know. I think people are way quick to jump onto this bandwagon here to support this guy. They're throwing money at his commissary so he can buy candy bars and crosswords.
And he's being treated inhumanely, according to his lawyer.
Yeah. I don't know. Let's see what this guy says.
All right.
Even staff attorneys from that detention center, but has not been retained by the defense. Sam, we wanted to make sure everybody was all on the same page there. Nice to have you here with us. I just first want to know from your perspective what it's like in this facility and how Mangione might be treated.
So first, thank you for having me back. I've described this facility, and it's kind of caught on as a catchphrase, as the worst facility. I mean, it's worse than hell. Where he currently is in a protective custody unit. So it's similar to a SHU, and he's being held there for evaluation. Until they can clear him psychologically, physically, emotionally, they're not going to put him into a general population environment. Even though he won't be in theoretical general population, he'll most likely be on what's called Unit 4H, which is where your high-profile inmates are. It is not a pleasant place to be. However, it is much better than the alternative, which would be a state facility, where Rikers, for a number of reasons.
And why is that?
When you're in a federal facility, you tend to not only get a better, and I use this term very generously, accommodations, but the food, the ability to access counsel, and also the nature of the prisoners tend to be a little bit different. Certainly when he leaves
Flying him in a helicopter
and gets into the floor.
So does every inmate get flown to this place on a helicopter?
I don't know.
Is it on an island?
I don't know where the metropolitan place is, if it's on an island or not. I wouldn't think it would be, but
wow.
I don't know. It bugs me how they're treating him so much like a celebrity. The dude murdered somebody.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Now let's say he's 100% innocent. Like the way it's all handled right now, like this is like, it's crazy because like let's say he's 100% innocent. His life gets wrecked from here on out. The only chance he has of I don't know, doing something for himself is to write a book and go on tour talking and things like that, because like it's really hard to live your life after you've been this famous for something this heinous. For this heinous. So, I don't know. That's always interesting to me, like how, like you said, they're treating him like he's a celebrity, but then what if it's kind of like what's his name? The kid up in what's his name? He shot some people during a George Floyd protest.
Oh, Rittenhouse.
Like after that, like he got exonerated, and then what is life after that? Like, can't get hired.
Yeah.
Everybody's giving you death threats.
Wait, I should take that back. You are innocent until proven guilty. That is the way our justice system works. But I personally think that he did do it. Whether he was hired to do it as a hit or not, you know, I do think he's guilty of what he's being accused of. But I don't know why they seem to be treating him with a celebrity so much. That's kind of what bothers me, I guess, about the whole situation.
You know, you don't get too many videos like that of up close, somebody just walking up, cold-blooded, you know, executing somebody like that, like a hitman from a movie. And they're like, oh my gosh, he did it like it's like watching a movie. You know, people they see it on a screen, I think, and then they elevate that. And then I don't know. It is interesting though, right? This whole phenomenon. Yeah. They keep going on and on about it.
They do. I mean, what are we, 10 days past?
Yeah. Hey, we're here talking about it.
I know. That's what my point exactly.
Let's watch this.
Or he's going to, which is where Sean Combs is, Sam Bankman-Fried. I think there's two former politicians from the Mexican government. Once he gets there, he will not only be in a safer environment, he'll be allowed out of his cell probably, you know, from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m, barring counts. He'll get 3 regular meals, which tend to be much better than state meals. And overall, he will be certainly much safer in an open environment than having to require or need the protective custody of what he might need at a Rikers.
I also want to ask you, this case in particular, and we've talked about this on this show as well, just about the public support that we have seen for this man who is accused of killing Brian Thompson, and what that looks like on the internet, and just how high profile, not only high profile, but just how he has gotten so much public support from people. What does that mean, if anything, when you're inside this facility? Does he get letters or phone calls or anything like that, or it doesn't matter at all?
Well, certainly people could put money on his account for commissary and for emails.
It takes money for
He might
emails?
get fan letters. Other than that, it makes him, in my opinion, much more vulnerable, much more susceptible to extortion, especially once, not so much where he currently is. This might be the safest part of his whole journey. If he is convicted of federal charges, which would certainly be better than the state charges in terms of prisons, he's going to have to figure out with his team where to go, where will be the safest facility. Is he going to need psychological services? Or is he going to, depending upon the sentence, have
if he's going to need psychological services?
to remain somewhere for life? And he will face inmates that are not fans of his, do not care about United Healthcare, usually care about one thing: what can you give me? How much money can your family send me, or else? And it's a very scary predicament that he and his family
I never thought about
have to
that.
be concerned with going forward.
No, like the guys inside that are like, I'm going to make your life terrible here unless you fill up my commissary account so I can buy candy bars and crossword puzzles.
But he's not as...
Or maybe they want to have his family pay somebody
Right.
in his family on the outside.
Yeah.
It's not just about candy bars. I got to think bigger. I wonder, though, is he in the chow line with Diddy?
I don't know.
Do you think they got Diddy out in the public? Or do they got him like...
No, I think they've got Diddy pretty secure in there.
But so is he in solitary? Does he eat alone? You're a resident expert, Cole.
No, I'm not, because I've never been in a prison. And I don't want to be. So I don't know. But I would think that super high profile people in MDC Brooklyn are probably pretty isolated most of the time because of that exact thing. I mean, there's other inmates in there that are going to look to extort you, that are going to look to make your life a living hell. And I would just think that with such high profile people, I mean, the news cycle is still talking about both of these individuals, that they're going to treat them a little differently than they would the general inmate that goes to one of these places, would be my guess. So,
well, you'd think if Diddy got close to him, he'd be like, hey, man, if we both get out of here, I might have a place for a guy like you. Right? So
maybe
if he gets off, he might still have an opportunity for a job. I don't know.
Yeah.
Will be, in my opinion, the safest part of his whole experience, being in Brooklyn, MDC.
See?
Yeah, and I know,
safest part,
again, as I said at the top of this
being
interview,
in Brooklyn, MDC.
And this is where she's not here, right? It said that she was here. Was Ghislaine Maxwell here? She was here. Now she's not here.
I don't think she is there now.
I wonder where she's at. Like
she might still be there. I don't know.
you are advising his legal team. You've not been retained by them. Is that something you all have talked through, just his particular situation, in the fact that the public does know that he comes from a well-to-do family, things like that?
So I've spoken with his legal team. I've spoken with them on a number of occasions. I've also spoken with the legal staff at Brooklyn MDC as recently as yesterday to try to help arrange the legal visits for him, for his counsel. So I wanted to clarify that. I'm sure that they were blindsided the other day when they learned it was federal. So they're going to have to pivot and do whatever is necessary to deal with that charge.
What do you mean?
They weren't blindsided with it being federal. They knew something like this was going to go federal right away.
What are you basing that on?
Just the totality of everything that we've learned so far, or what they've told us so far.
Yeah.
They knew it was going federal. They didn't get blindsided. I do feel like this guy's a little infatuated with him, though.
I think a lot of people are.
You know?
Yeah. It's fun to watch these things. You know, like, remember, everybody was all about the OJ thing. Remember that? That just went on and on and on.
Yeah.
Same type of thing. He had the people put him up on a pedestal. Anyway.
It's just weird to me.
Yeah. But then there's the women who, like, some serial killer will go to prison, and there's like women that write letters, tell them how much they love them, that they want to marry them.
Yeah.
It's like a weird psychological thing. I don't know.
I'm sure that they were probably preparing for the state charges and a potential state incarceration. Federal is completely different, and it's something that I'm sure that they will be addressing as time goes forward.
All right, Sam Mangel, thank you so much for your insight on this. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Jessica. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you.
Well, there you have it. All the news that's new and improved on Mangione. Like I say, I don't feel that. Let me get that off the screen there. Sorry, I thought we were on a split screen there, and I'm not on a split screen.
No, it's doing the auto switch.
Okay.
It's going back and forth between the two of us.
All right. I'm running my own board still here. Let me, alrighty. I thought we were on a split, but. So, I don't know. I just feel like there's a real chance that he was paid by somebody to knock that guy off over that lawsuit way more than I feel that he's just some Robin Hood who's, upset about how the insurance companies have been so crooked with us before. I had a claim denied one time. I want to say it was by it was Aflac.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a hernia. Like I literally went downstairs into a basement, was lifting a 1920s soda fountain out of a basement in this old building, and I literally felt it pull and get a hernia. It got denied because they so they wanted statements from the surgeon. I had to go do it. I had to miss work, go get a hernia repair surgery. And they asked the surgeon, they're like, did he hurt himself really from lifting a soda fountain? He was like, I wasn't there, but it's in line with
right
what, that would happen.
Yeah.
They denied the claim and said, we can't determine whether this was from an injury or a illness. Denied.
Wow.
Yeah. And I was like, when has hernia ever been an illness?
Yeah, I've never heard of a hernia being from an illness. I mean, I guess it could be, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, isn't that just like that? That's your typical crappy insurance type of cop out thing.
Yeah.
We're hey, we're not gonna, send you your $600 for your little injury here. Anyway, so I get it about being upset. That's a small time one to people who have real issues here, but that's my one little example here. I just don't feel like the way that guy was on screen, on camera, the way he acted, I don't think that was some emotional thing about his hernia got declined.
No. And I guess, now that, I guess I haven't really looked at it from your point of view at all, but what you're saying does make sense. You're right. It was pretty emotionless. And most of these types of crimes, a lot of them they have passion in them. And you're right. It does sound emotionalist, this whole thing. So you could be onto something right there. And maybe they'll tell us the truth. You never know.
Oh, I'm onto something. I'm telling you.
All right.
I got the next story for you here. We're going to go right into this here. Let's see here. All right. This one is crazy. This one just came out tonight, right?
Yeah. I'm pretty sure it did.
Police make an arrest in connection to the horrific attack on a New York City subway. The NYPD says a woman was sleeping on the train this morning before she was deliberately set on fire by another passenger. The woman, who is yet to be identified, has died. This is what authorities had to say on how technology played a factor in all of this.
How technology played a factor?
Today's brutal murder was captured on one of those onboard train video cameras. It offered detectives immediately answers to questions that they had. What happened? It offered them images of the perpetrator. It allowed them to take those images and release them to the public. And it allowed the public to see something and say something. And that's why we're standing here now reporting that an individual is in custody, a person of interest is in custody.
CNN's Gloria Pazmino has been tracking this story. What are these new details, Gloria?
Well, Jessica, extremely disturbing details that we learned from police officials just a short while ago. This happened early this morning around 7:30 at the Stillwell Avenue station in Coney Island, which is in Brooklyn. And this is the end of the subway line. Now, police tell us that there was a woman who appeared to be sleeping on the subway car. The subway car was not moving at the time. And then the suspect approached her, lit her on fire, apparently using a lighter. That's what we learned during the press conference just a short while ago. The woman immediately caught fire. She was engulfed in flames, and officers that were patrolling the station at that hour were able to respond and put out the flames. They were unfortunately not able to save her. EMS responded.
Okay, I don't understand. What is she wearing that she is engulfed in flames from a lighter that quick?
So there's been speculation that she was severely intoxicated and passed out and had alcohol on her, liquor on her.
Oh.
So, I mean, there's that possibility. There's also been, I was reading something earlier where they were talking about this guy may or may not have put a retardant or an accelerant on her prior to lighting her on fire, but obviously they have video, so I would assume they would say that if that would be the case.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think here. Like, normally you'd think like you're trying to light somebody's jeans on fire or something.
Yeah.
Like, that would take a little bit. Like,
you would think so.
You think you could pat that out or something, you know?
Yeah.
I guess if you're drunk, you're like out.
Yeah,
you're passed out.
She was sleeping and passed out. And if you watch some of the other videos, I don't know if they're going to show it on this one because we haven't watched it all the way through, but there was even what looked like to be a cop that walks by right in the middle of all this. Like, the suspect is sitting on the bench and she's on fire, and there's this cop that just kind of walks by.
He walked by while somebody's on fire?
That's what it looks like.
I hope they show that.
You know?
I got to see that.
Responded to the scene, and the woman was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, police really just were able to give a lot of detail, thanks in part to the cameras that were in the subway car. This is a relatively new thing here in New York City, Jessica, that we have nearly full subway cover when it comes to surveillance cameras. That was how they were able to get very good, clear images of the suspect, which they then arrested several hours later. One very important detail, which the law enforcement officials went into, is that they were able to disseminate those images through the media and the press, and then they got a tip from 3 young New Yorkers. So the police commissioner said that they were high school
That's usually
age
how it works.
Who saw
It's like
the
she's
man
super
and
excited about it,
reported
but that's
to the
usually how
police.
this works.
They were able to make an arrest, and he is now in custody. I want you to take a listen to the police officials just describing this incident earlier this morning.
Someone who we believe carried out one of the most just depraved crimes one person could possibly commit against another human being. And
Can you imagine you're just out trying to do your Christmas shopping? Or what time of day was this?
7:30 in the morning.
Okay. So you're heading out to go do your Christmas shopping.
She was sleeping.
But I'm talking about the other passengers, other just people. Like, can you imagine seeing this?
Yeah, and I mean, per the videos, nobody tried to help. They're all sitting there filming. That's a societal problem. That is a societal problem because I think
they've trained us to.
They have.
They've trained us to, because if you step in, what happened with old boy Daniel
Penny?
Yeah.
Yeah. That, and everybody's looking for that next viral clip.
Yeah, very much so. I see it though all the time where you're just like watching somebody will come into some store and just are ripping iPhones off. You'll go through a whole store nobody makes an effort to stop them or anything else. And it's interesting, like the shift, not just that kind of a thing. I saw another one the other day where somebody was pouring some type of paint all over a brand new Cybertruck out.
Like protesting?
Yeah. And it's like, I don't know. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of, you wouldn't be able to do that back in the day. Somebody would have stepped in and stopped you from doing that. But I think maybe it has to do with that our society has also become so lawsuit happy. Like, I mean, they're so quick. I mean, you step in and you stub the guy's toe, his family sues you, and your life is ruined. So I think in a way, hey, somebody sets somebody on fire. Well, if you go over there and pat them out and, hit them too hard and they crack a rib, like, you're going to get sued. So, I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess it shocks me. I mean, you would think like, oh look, somebody's life is on the line right here. Let's try to save them.
Oh yeah, definitely.
In my mind, that makes sense. What doesn't make sense is exactly what happened. There's somebody on fire. I'm going to film it with my cell phone, and that's it.
I can't imagine like people in town here, like being in Columbus, like somebody's on fire, and people are just filming them.
No.
Can you see that happening here?
No. I don't see it happening, but it happens. But it happens all over the place. I mean, we see news clips all day long that come from cell phones, and instead of stepping in to help, they're filming it.
Yeah.
I mean, so I would hope that people around here and in rural areas would still help their fellow man.
I think they would.
Fellow person, but
it's a weird psychology in those big cities.
Psychology. Yeah, it is.
Took the life of an innocent New Yorker. But at this hour, I am pleased to announce that a short time ago, alert NYPD transit officers took a person of interest into custody.
So a combination of technology and good old-fashioned police work there, Jessica, as well as New Yorkers who were paying attention and called it into that tip line. We are waiting to hear details on the charges that this person is facing, and of course more details about the person who was killed in this absolutely senseless tragedy. Jessica?
All right, Gloria Pazmino, thank you very much. And joining us now is CNN Chief Law Enforcement and Intelligence Analyst John Miller. He was formerly the Deputy Commissioner of Intelligence and Counterterrorism for the NYPD. John, first, I just want to get your thoughts generally about this crime and how it all progressed throughout the day and the key role that officials say technology played.
Well, Jessica, it's one of those things that actually could have happened very differently and unfolded in an equally tragic way. So you have an empty train car. You have an individual who approaches this woman who's sleeping. He uses this lighter, according to the video that was downloaded from that train car, to set the blanket that she is wearing on fire.
All right, now we're getting some details.
Expands until it awakens her, but at this point she's engulfed in flames and stands up. At that point, the individual who set her on fire has retreated from the train car and sat down in the station on a bench to watch her stand and burn.
Wow.
When police arrive, all they see is her in the train car, and they summon people with fire extinguishers and people to render aid. But if it was not for the video in the train car, the MTA gets there, they download the video, and they see it, this wouldn't have been a homicide. This would have been either a mystery or a question about how did this woman either catch fire or set herself on fire. But for that video depicted this individual approaching her and lighting on fire. There were no other witnesses to that. Interestingly, the technology then expands because one of the officers on the scene turns towards where this man is sitting outside the train car on the bench, and his body camera actually captures that face. Once they download the video and realize he's gone, they're able to exploit the body cam video to say, here's his picture, put that out over their social media channel, crowdsource it to everybody riding the train and everybody in the city, and he's spotted hours away and far away. So a lot of technology came together, and, you know, it's interesting. When this technology was suggested by the governor and the mayor,
here we go.
Cameras on every train car, cameras in every station. The New York Civil Liberties Union came out with a statement. The New York Civil Liberties Union strongly opposes NYPD's plans to increase the number of surveillance cameras until police come up with a plan to safeguard the use of these cameras and the images they capture on tape. Our concerns extend to the announced increase in surveillance cameras on the subway. It was interesting that, you know, privacy advocates and civil liberties people oppose these cameras. When you talk to people in the subway, all they say is more cops, more cameras.
Yeah, that it is so interesting, and you make such a great point that if that camera wasn't there, then we would have maybe never known that anybody.
So what's your thoughts on this with the cameras? Like what he's saying right there, he's, you know.
Is it a civil rights violation?
So should we use these cases like this to go ahead and justify putting cameras all over all the public spaces?
Well, if you're in public, I think it's a fine line. And I don't know if it's easy to answer because one.
So if you're in Columbus and you're walking down Pike, should you just be on camera?
at all times.
Yeah. You're coming out of the Atlas.
No, I don't think so.
See, that's where it's kind of like, gosh, we probably wouldn't have found this guy. It would have been just a mystery if we didn't have cameras there. But are we then okay with, there's going to be those times that it's used for good. What about when it's not used for good? Like when we're slipping toward like 1984 type scenario, they're just like watching, Big Brother's watching all the time. And, you're protesting a legitimate something, but they're tracking everybody and they got cell phones on
they're already doing that now.
Right. And they are. But here now they've already done it. They've already put the cameras there. But now they're like, see, the cameras are good. So this is why. This is why, which, of course.
I think there's certain
in this situation.
Yeah, I think there's certain instances where you do have them. Public transit, and then there's private businesses and stuff like that that definitely have, security systems and camera systems that they're watching every move you make. So I think it's a case by case basis. I don't want to be filmed. I don't want to be walking down the main street in my own little town being filmed 24/7. But there's some instances where it needs to happen.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy answer for it.
Yeah, I don't know either. I'm with you. I think, hey, public transit, there should be cameras. You should just know that, hey, this area is being watched. But does that extend then to every sidewalk, every neighborhood?
I don't know. I'm sure if you go to Vegas has probably got cameras pretty much everywhere, don't they?
I would imagine so.
Some of those places.
I haven't been down there in a lot of years, but
yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
Then you go to some countries like Great Britain, they got cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
You look at a street corner, and it's just like a tree of cameras pointing every direction.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about that. Because if you can do it in those big cities, why not do it in the little towns? That'll be next, right?
Oh, I'm sure. But
you'll just get a grant. The town will just, local sheriff's department, here you go. Here's money that you've been needing for other things. But to accept this, you're also going to accept this.
Putting the cameras up.
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know, man. That's a slippery slope.
And then I
don't know how I feel about it.
If they provide the funding for it and everything, right? They're like, hey, just so we all have some continuity here, we need to be able to tap into those. Because if you guys got something that happens, we need, we need to help you out. We need to have access to that. How do you feel about that, Cole?
I don't know. I don't like my individual rights being closed in on. But at the same time...
It's because you're a red-blooded American, man.
I know.
You're making me proud.
But at the same time, there are instances where it's necessary. And public transit is one.
Hey, if it was my wife and kids out there, I'd want somebody, somebody looking out, or at least the appearance of that somebody's watching. Everybody typically behaves better when they think somebody is watching.
I don't know about that.
Oh,
I don't mean. Just you look at like the other thefts that have happened on the subways in New York recently. There's been, and the New York governor was saying how safe the subways are. Mm-hmm. But then you see just in a week, the lighting this female on fire. 69-year-old man was killed and stabbed in the chest. Another one was stabbed in the face. A 32-year-old was randomly stabbed in the chest by some dude. 17-year-old girl was knifed in the face over by a Yankee Stadium subway. Some dude was pushed onto the subway tracks.
But but maybe not just surveillance is enough to deter. Maybe the other problem is enforcement. Maybe the other problem there is, cashless bail.
Right. Oh, I'm 100% on that. That the NYPD is pretty they can't do very much over there.
So I visited Korea this last fall, and there's cameras everywhere.
Yeah.
I didn't see the cops one time in Seoul. Maybe once. I can't even remember. I just never saw police anywhere. There was cameras everywhere, though. But if there is anything, they are super quick to respond, and there's consequences.
Right.
Like everybody is in line over there. They are in line. But I think it has to be like, hey, if you're going to have surveillance, you got to have follow through. And I think sounds like that's what New York is lacking, is follow through.
Yeah.
Oh, letting so many of these people out on the street, and there's so many so-called, all the illegals that they've allowed in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So do we have any word on this guy? Do we know if this guy?
Supposedly,
it's like they don't want to even bring it up yet.
Yeah, I've read that he's a Guatemalan migrant.
Oh.
So, and I read some articles that were saying that he's got the same last name as some of those guys that beat up that cop. Those 4 guys that beat up that cop that they pretty much just let out or didn't even arrest or whatever. I don't remember the whole thing, but yeah. So,
well, if he'd have been having to like wait in Guatemala for his paperwork to go through, he probably wouldn't have been able to be here.
No, it'll be interesting to see if they release, like, if he's had contact with the police while he's been in New York City and how many crimes he's been accused of or anything like that.
It'll be interesting to see if they put any of this out of there. A lot of the time I have found when you're watching the news, you're trying to find out what more about it. When it comes out with the information, when it comes out, if it doesn't fit the narrative that they want, they just bury it.
Oh yeah, totally.
We'll never hear about it again.
Totally.
So, I don't know.
He had a role in lighting this woman on fire. With that in mind, John, what do we know more about the victim and the suspect? Officials were pretty scant with details. They were still working to ID the victim, frankly. With the suspect, all they could say is that he had arrived in 2018 from Guatemala. That was about all we got. What more are you learning?
When they took the suspect into custody, he basically self-identifies. They did not find any, as I'm told from my sources, they didn't find any ID on him. So they're going by his statement as to what his name was, what his date of birth was, when he arrived in this country, where he came from. Of course, they'll be running fingerprints and other records to see if they can confirm that ID.
When he arrived in this country. They don't say that when just, some guy...
Right now, they're not able to speak as to whether he has any prior record of violence or violations on the subway, because all they know about him, at least at this moment, is what he's told them.
Mm-hmm. And I also want to ask you about the fact that New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who you mentioned played a role with the mayor in putting these cameras into the subway, sent National Guard troops into the subway for security during the holidays. Do you think that was the right move? And just generally, when it comes to security with the New York subway, where do you think that stands today?
Well, I think it was the right move in that the National Guard is a backup to the existing law enforcement system. They spend tons of money on overtime to push cops from the street to do overtime tours in the subway. But I think we've all figured out the key here is after the incident involving Frank James in 2022, when he at random opened fire and shot 10 people on the subway, and the cameras on the station were not functioning that day, and we were deprived of that video during the investigation I was a part of, the push to get those cameras in every station, in every subway car, makes a real difference. And here's the other irony here, which is the police commissioner we saw speaking, Jessica Tisch, before she was police commissioner and sanitation commissioner and commissioner of internet for the city, she spearheaded NYPD's technology as the deputy commissioner there. She was the one who introduced the body cameras to the street, which were critical today. The ability to transmit information to 36,000 phones that police officers were carrying, including images, which was instrumental today.
36,000 phones they push out to.
So as she comes around to her new role as police commissioner, she's literally reaping the benefits of her own hard work from years ago.
Yeah, it is incredible, the groundwork that she laid that now has helped her both in this and also Luigi Mangione's case as well. John Miller.
All right. That's just crazy. I mean, it's right before Christmas. I don't know, we don't have any information on this lady now.
I don't know. But it's fine. It's interesting. Like, there's minimal information about this guy, and they even mention Mangione in this thing, and we know they have all sorts of information about him.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And there was so much so fast coming out on this guy. I know this was just tonight or just today.
I know, but this is no less horrific. But I don't know. It just irritates me, I guess, a little bit.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
But
pretty wild. Let's I want to hear a little bit about this on what's been going on in Germany with this Christmas market.
Mm-hmm.
All this bad news. Hate to be all talking about just like this bad news around Christmas, but it's just crazy to me how this type of stuff is just going on all over the place, you know?
Yeah.
Just so wild. All right, let me see here. I'm over here queuing things up. I'm queuing. There we go, maybe. Why do I lose that? Okay.
There you go.
This is the moment a speeding vehicle ploughed into the bustling crowd, killing at least 5 people, according to German officials, and injuring more than 200. Carnage, but from an unexpected threat. Well, this is exactly the kind of attack on a packed Christmas market that Germany has suffered in the past and feared could happen again. But what's so unexpected is the profile of the alleged attacker. Not an Islamist, but anti-Islam. Not a recent immigrant to Germany, but settled here for nearly 20 years. Part of the community, a doctor in a nearby clinic. Very few, if any, saw that coming.
Well, obviously not Saudi Arabia.
Emerged of the suspect's arrest at the scene of the market attack. A US activist group has now identified him as Taleb al-Abdul Mohsin, a 50-year-old originally from Saudi Arabia, who once described himself as history's most aggressive critic of Islam, particularly opposed to the Saudi regime. On social media, Abdul Mohsin has repeatedly expressed support for the German far-right AfD party, also claiming Germany wants to Islamize Europe. And now this.
So this is fascinating. Like, how much of this is really true here? How much of this is propaganda? Like, this is an interesting one. It's one of these things that you find out 5 years from now, like, most of all this was incorrect.
Right.
I always try to think, like, where's this really going to go? Like, you know, when you look back on all this. Or maybe it's just all face value. It's so hard to tell now. You want to take everything at face value. I wish we could. But so much of it is, you know, I don't know.
It's just weird. Weird to me that he's like anti-Islam and all of this, but then he goes in and attacks. I mean, Christmas market to me screams Judeo-Christian.
And he's a psychiatrist?
Or something like that. Yeah. So why is he going in to this quote-unquote Judeo-Christian Christmas market and running over people?
Just ruining lives.
Yeah. When he's claiming Islamic
and I get
viewpoints.
that psychiatrists are just, they're people too, but come on, shouldn't you see some early signs that you're starting to lose it? We got to
maybe
tighten up on licensing or something here.
Yeah.
Horrific attack, allegedly committed by a self-confessed Islamophobe, fueling Germany's growing anti-immigration mood.
Wen mache ich verantwortlich? Eigentlich unsere Politik.
Our politicians are responsible for this, one local, Barbara, told me. I think there should be a clean-up of people who do these things, she says.
I'm with her.
Now is time to close our borders, says this man, Tom. Germany's pain and grief is already giving way to anger. Well, Jessica, that anger was seen on the streets of Magdeburg earlier this evening because hundreds of far-right activists taken to the streets calling for the deportation of migrants in the country, shouting slogans, carrying banners. Remigration read the big banner at the front of them. Immigration
200
in Germany
injured,
has
200
been
plus.
growing as one of the major political issues in the country. And this attack, just a few days before Christmas, of course, has really poured fuel on the flames, as it were. Jessica.
No doubt about that. Matthew Chance for us there in Germany. Thank you very much. CNN Global Affairs analyst Kim Dozier and CNN National Security analyst Peter Bergen both join us now. It's good to see both of you. Peter, I want to start first with you. With our sources telling CNN, Saudi Arabia sent multiple warnings to German authorities about this suspect that were ignored. The earliest being sent back in 2007. What do you make of those warnings being dismissed?
That's incredible. I hadn't heard that.
I don't exactly know. He had claimed asylum in Germany, and I'm sure the Saudis may well, we don't know exactly the precise nature of what they were warning, but presumably they were hoping that he might be extradited back to Saudi Arabia. Well, we all know how Saudi Arabia treats people that they consider to be dissidents. Just think about the case of Jamal Khashoggi, who was murdered by Saudi officials 6 years ago. So, the Germans may well have had, good reason to either be suspicious of these warnings in the sense of, the Saudis don't have a particularly good human rights record, or there may be some other explanation, which we don't know.
And Kim, Saudi authorities have alleged that the man harassed Saudis abroad who opposed his political views. They also noted he'd become a supporter of the far-right party Alternative for Germany. What are kind of the politics around this attack?
Well, you could already see with the response in the streets of the city where the attack took place, it is going to likely spur more anti-immigrant sentiment just ahead of the February snap election.
So I'm assuming Germany has super open borders?
Yeah, they've allowed a ton of people in. Just like a lot of those countries have.
Yeah.
There's just been waves over the last several years here where they've just allowed tons in.
Okay.
And, the government lets them in. I think, honestly, most of the Germans are not for it. But just like same thing in Great Britain. I mean, there's a lot of the people do not like the waves of immigrants coming in, allowing them in. I just don't think it's a good idea. I mean, you can ask any American Indian,
Yeah.
Like, it's not a good idea to have uncontrolled borders.
Right.
Especially you got cultures coming in that they coming in that like, and especially at such a rate that as they're coming in here, they aren't having, I don't know that was this guy's case here, but I can see why. And I think, who knows? I don't know what this guy's status was. I'm not going to assume that whatever. It sounds like he's been there a long time. I don't know the full story on him, but I get it. And I'm like, well, these people that are already making judgments like, well, we got to get immigrants out of here. Who knows? I don't even know what that guy's status was. Maybe that wasn't the problem with him, but I can see their general unhappiness. Same thing we're having. We just watched this thing. The guy from Guatemala, like,
right.
Is he an illegal? Kind of ticks you off.
No, I agree.
Right?
Yeah.
And so I kind of feel like I get it. Like, and we're history buffs, right? But I look at that and I'm like, hey, that's kind of part of the problem is you have two cultures. Actually, not two cultures. You have many cultures. Like during the westward expansion, you got people coming in from all kinds of countries that are escaping whatever because they were like, hey, there's some freedom out here, we hear. And anyway, so you have all these different cultures coming. And when they come swarming in,
uncontrolled,
they will take over and they will annihilate. Eventually, everybody acts like, hey, we're going to get along. We can get along. And eventually it's just like, hey, let's dehumanize each other. And this is what, this guy in some level, he had to dehumanize these people to push on that gas pedal and go driving through this market right before Christmas or any time of year. But he had to dehumanize them. And I don't know. That's what I look at it is like, that's to me, the pattern I see is you bring in one culture against another. You start to make judgments on that other culture. You don't get it. That's not your people. And so they aren't as valuable to you. So I get it.
Yeah.
Why people are like, hey, anti-immigration. That's not anti-immigration. It's the floods of illegals. And then they'll just change the rules to make it legal, but it's not been legal. And they've just allowed tons of them to come in. And going to have all these kinds of problems. So I get it.
I agree.
Yeah.
There needs to be a vetting system.
Yeah.
And right now there's not, and it's obviously just not a U.S. problem. It's a worldwide problem.
Oh, yeah. It's happening all over.
Yeah.
But in some places it's not. Like, you can't just go, I saw a thing, Mexico, not too long ago, was deporting record numbers of Americans. People who just come down there and they just stay, right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, just go to Mexico, right?
Right.
Well, Mexico's like, no. You can't come here illegally.
Yeah.
And they kicked him out. Good for them. Good for Mexico. Right? Like, obey their laws.
Right. No, I agree. Yeah. Obey the laws. And
yeah.
Right now, obviously, there's not. And I'm curious as to, like, this. So this one guy's saying here that maybe Germany was worried that this guy would get sent back to Saudi Arabia and get murdered because he was a dissident. I mean, what do we really know about this guy at this point? And I mean,
I don't know. I this is my first time seeing this thing through here. I can understand that Saudi Arabia is, I don't know, on some levels, yeah, they do some really terrible things here. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is on that, because like that guy said, he made the point like, hey, you know, they got warnings from Saudi Arabia, but what do you do? What do you do when, you know, do you trust Saudi Arabia? They literally, that guy Khashoggi, I mean, they took him apart in that embassy, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. It is a tough one with certain countries like that, but you can't just have open borders.
No, because I think if you didn't have open borders and you had that system set in place, he would have never been there in the first place. They're like, yeah, we're not going to let this guy in. But obviously that wasn't the case, and now we're talking about it at 10 o'clock at night, Mountain Standard Time.
Very true.
So it just, yeah. But it just, why would he go into a Christmas market?
I don't know, man. People snap.
Yeah.
This guy's crazy. He's got to be crazy to do this. I don't know.
Germany just dissolved days, a little over a week ago.
This one's bumming me out.
And already the Alternative for Germany party, which has been labeled by German security services as extremist, it is running second in the polls.
So there must be a lot of stuff going on politically in Germany that we're not.
Oh, they're all not fired up over there. All right, let's get to. They are fired up, and oops, I don't want to do that. Which is also interesting. My daughter's moving over to Germany in a couple weeks for 3 years.
Not in Magdeburg.
Hopefully not.
It's kind of by Hanover, so I don't know where she's moving, but
I can't remember. I can't pronounce it anyway.
For what reason?
Her husband got a job as he's basically a pediatric physical therapist.
Cool.
And he got a job basically as a government contractor, I think, on an Air Force base.
Oh.
So they needed more.
Well, there's Spangdahlem and Ramstein.
There you go.
Spangdahlem?
Yep. That's where they're going.
Okay. Been there.
You've been there?
Yeah.
Oh, see? Should have brought Alex tonight. She could have talked to you. You've been there. What's it like?
Dude, that was over 20 years ago.
What was it like then? Whoops.
So 20 years ago, there wasn't a lot of this stuff going on. I loved Germany as far as being stationed over there. But I mean, being a history guy, I traveled every weekend. I didn't just stay. I was stationed in Ramstein, not Spangdahlem, but Spangdahlem was fairly close, and so we would go up there from time to time. But I enjoyed Germany. I mean, there's so much history there. Being a World War II guy, I mean, I went to tons of different museums and different battle places. Found a bunch of old Roman stuff that was there during, when the Roman Empire went that far north. So I really enjoyed Germany when I was there.
I always heard it was always the place to go. People in the Army were like, I want to go to Germany. Everybody was always trying to go to Germany. When I got out of basic training, they were like, where do you want to go? I had like 3 choices. I think I put Germany, Alaska, and I don't know where the last one was. But I think Germany was at the top of my list.
Yeah. Yeah. So when I was there, when I got out of basic, I think I had Washington, McCord Air Force Base in Washington, and there was a guy that had Germany, and he didn't want to go to Germany. And I wanted to, because it was like on my top. And so we were able to switch, and I got to spend 2 years in Germany, and I loved it. It was awesome.
That's awesome. You got to switch.
Yeah.
That worked out.
Yeah. And then, but like I never had any, I mean, there were places we couldn't go. Obviously, there's going to be those places wherever you're stationed. But we never really had any, like I never felt unsafe or anything over there at all.
So do you think with current type of stuff, I mean, we don't probably know a ton about what's going on in Germany right now, but do you think that place, what kind of a place is that for her and her husband? And and daughter.
Oh, I don't think
My only granddaughter's going over there.
Right.
How is that spot?
Spangdahlem's fine.
Okay.
I don't think there's any issues over there. I mean, that whole Spangdahlem, Ramstein, I mean, I wouldn't. Ramstein used to have the highest.
And they have great music.
The band, yeah. But Ramstein in that area used to have the highest grouping of Americans outside of the United States.
Really?
Yeah. And I'm sure it's probably similar to that now.
And so those two places are pretty close together then?
Yeah, they're not too far.
Huh.
But yeah, I wouldn't be too worried. I wouldn't be worried about her over there.
And I'm not. I'm not. I mean, every country's got their issues.
Yeah.
Everything's kind of going on. There's lots of things going on.
Don't ride the subway.
I'm going to tell her to stay away from Christmas markets. You know?
Right. Yeah.
Subways
in New York.
Strangers with lighters. I don't know. Okay, this brings us to the Wall Street Journal. Just came out with a piece on. Tell me about it. What you got, Cole?
On the decline, on President Biden's decline from 2021 till now.
They had
essentially Wall Street Journal is just reaffirming everything that we already knew.
Yeah.
From day one. And I mean,
it's interesting that they're all like, let's all just start now admitting this.
Yeah, like he only had like 2 or 3 full cabinet meetings in 2023.
Yeah.
Full cabinet meetings, like 3 of them. He'd fall asleep during these things. He'd like there was a bunch of stuff saying that he was like totally out of it when the whole Afghanistan withdrawal thing happened. Obviously, I mean that whole thing is for another night. But I mean, you got to be cognizant when you're talking about that kind of stuff, right?
Did you see the piece? I wish I'd have brought it up. I should have brought it up already. But there was a piece. Did you see that James O'Keefe? He has O'Keefe Media Group.
Mm-hmm.
He set up a guy on the National Security Council. I can't remember what his name is right now, but he set the guy up on a date with one of his undercover female reporters.
Mm-hmm.
Videotaped the whole thing, and this guy just opened up and told this. He put on his dating app profile that he unapologetically overshares on first dates. And this poor guy, he opened up and he told this lady over dinner all this stuff about Biden and about how he went on a trip recently and called him, this guy back in Washington, and said, hey, I need to talk to your boss, so-and-so. And he was like, oh, okay, President Biden, he's on the trip with you. And he's
it does not surprise me.
And so he then says, oh, okay, well, I'm going to call him. Or I'll find him.
Mm-hmm.
So not just like a minute later, his phone rings again, and it's President Biden asking for that guy
for
again,
the same guy
for the
again.
same guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, and he basically lays it all out how they've known it and how it's been a big thing that they've been hiding and not talking about, hiding in plain sight.
Hiding in plain sight. Well, yeah, and then there was, I don't know if it's in this one or not in the Wall Street Journal article, but there was another one where it might have come out a couple weeks ago or maybe even a month ago where they had sent stuff out to the major news outlets to be like, when you're putting together clips, it's only got to be portraying President Biden in good light because of his decline.
That's why there's not so many clips out there.
No.
Yeah.
But like you could put a list together. I think it'd be fun if we put a list together of all the times that he like did decline stuff.
Oh man.
During the presidency, but like walking into flags, walking the wrong way off stage, not shaking hands, calling people by the wrong, I mean, prominent people that he should know their names by the wrong name.
Or people who died years ago.
Right. Or saying that he had been at every active, what do you say? He's been at every mass shooting that has happened in the United States or something like that, or all sorts of different things.
It's really sad.
It is.
It's sad.
And they've known this. They've known this for probably since his inauguration. And so it makes you wonder, who the hell was running the country during these 4 years? Because it wasn't him.
Yeah. Oh, right now, the last few weeks, like, who's in charge?
I have no
Just
idea.
like sit here and pray that nothing happens. Right?
Right? Yeah.
Nobody's in charge. Well, somebody's in charge, but we don't know who it is.
But
hopefully somebody's in charge.
What I'm taking from this whole thing is that like it took 4 years for the quote unquote mainstream media to do their job and be like, oh yeah, President Biden is in decline. That's what I'm getting away from this. It's like, do your jobs.
Well, they wouldn't do it before the election.
Oh no, they
But
wouldn't.
now the election's over. You know, for them to carry on this charade, they just keep on losing credibility. Like if you're going to just deny the obvious, you're going to lose credibility, and they are. Well, let's check this out.
Okay. And so who's calling it a hit piece? Oh, did Wall Street Journal do GOP's bidding with the Biden piece? Okay.
Unnamed attendees claimed, quote, the president spoke so softly and with such little enunciation that attendees said they struggled to hear what he was saying. He told the same story more than once about his experiences with the DuPont company during his time as a Delaware senator, one of the people said. Writers Annie Linsky and Siobhan Hughes addressed the article's sourcing by saying, quote, this article is based on interviews with more than 45 people over several months. The interviews were with Republicans and Democrats who either participated in meetings with Biden or were briefed on them contemporaneously, including administration officials and other Democrats who found no fault in the president's handling of the meetings. Most of those who said Biden performed poorly were Republicans, but some Democrats said that he showed his age in several of the exchanges. And the piece leaned heavily on the observations of former House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, who recalled Biden's demeanor during the debt ceiling negotiations last year and described an erratic, forgetful man. Quote, he would ramble, he always had cards, he couldn't negotiate another way. The problem is McCarthy sang a different tune at the time, both publicly and privately. Two different reports at the time.
Man, I was so glad they got rid
Speaker
of McCarthy.
praised
Oh, I am
Biden's
too.
He was just
negotiating
slimy.
skills behind closed doors, and publicly was also complimentary, calling Biden, quote, very professional, very smart. The White House pouncing on the contradiction in a statement denouncing the piece. A spokesman telling News Nation, quote, literally the sole on-the-record critic in the entire story is Kevin McCarthy, whose interview contradicts his earlier public and private statements about
Chris
finding
Mader in
President
the
Sharp in their private meetings.
Chat says that they even
But
said
the
he was
reporters
incompetent
said
to
the White
stand
House
trial,
kept,
but
quote,
didn't admit any
close
decline.
tabs
That's
I
true.
remember that.
interviews with
Remember that during the
Yes.
tapes, or not the tapes, the classified documents that he had.
Yes.
Couldn't stand trial, but he's not in decline.
Yeah. That's just crazy.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
One congressman, New York Democrat Gregory Meeks, said the White House instructed him to call the reporters back to emphasize Biden's strengths.
See?
Partisan media on both the left and the right have run wild with the parts of the story that appeal to them.
But what I find so shocking about this article is they go to Kevin McCarthy as their main source and other House Republicans, the same House Republicans, Mike Johnson, who just lied through his teeth repeatedly.
He is not sharp as a tack, and it is terrifying how much he has lost in the last couple of years.
And
Oh
this
my
is
gosh.
exactly why President Trump has said.
But he
"I
also
want
looks like a lot of fun,
before
too.
the debate."
Yeah.
Because people are wondering how he's going to make it through that debate.
So that's the question, right? Was it fair? Was it a partisan hit piece? Joining us now, John Ziegler, conservative commentator and the host of the Death of Journalism podcast, and Colby Hall, founding editor of Mediaite.com and a News Nation contributor who wrote a piece today entitled
That
Wall
guy
Street
looks like
Journal
the
Report on Biden
CEO
showing
of
signs of slipping,
United Healthcare.
largely based on House Republican criticism. Colby, let me start with you. You think the piece was unfair?
Look, I think there's no question that anyone who's followed Joe Biden over the last 10 years can see that he clearly is operating at a slower, stiffer pace, right? But I think the Wall Street Journal did their readers a real disservice with this story, largely because almost all of their sourcing was blind quotes, anonymous quotes from House Republicans. And, you know, if you want to hear conservatives sort of insult Biden's mental acuity, you can turn on Fox News and hear that every hour on the hour. I think this is a real serious story. We should take this very, very seriously. But to only have one point of view and not to have anyone on the Democratic side is not solid journalism and undermines the larger case.
Do you really think there's another point of view?
No. They're just not going to put in there that, and it said in there, a couple of Democrats said that he had issues from time to time, but no, they're not going to. Even if 50 Democrats,
it is.
Even if 50 Democrats came out and said, "Oh, he's got cognitive decline," they're not going to come out and say it.
They're not going to say it because they don't want to hurt their career.
No. The only one that really don't give a shit is Fetterman. He's been saying whatever comes to his mind right now. He's impressed me. I'm not going to lie, dude. Fetterman has impressed me. I was like, oh my God, who is this guy? But now he's kind of like...
It's kind of funny that he went on Rogan,
you know.
And that whole thing, I did watch a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Fetterman is kind of funny, too. I was really like, really? When they elected him, Like, I was like, come on. The guy had to read, he had to use a computer to, you know, I mean, I feel bad for the guy. He had a stroke. I mean, but same thing. Do we have, you know, somebody suffering from this type of thing, or what Biden's been going through, whatever these people are suffering from, are those the people that we need in powerful positions?
No.
And
no. There's a congresswoman that hasn't been in Congress for like a year and a half. She's been in a hospital with like dementia.
Really?
She's still a congresswoman? Yeah.
Well, it's not Nancy Pelosi, right? Because she's only been in there a couple weeks.
Yeah, what Fed Up just said in the chat is that Fetterman's brain came back online. Totally could have.
Yeah, he finally fired back up.
He says, what's on his mind. He's backing some of Trump's, picks for cabinet positions, and he's calling out. I mean, I thought he just did one the other day where he's like, I know a lot of Democrats in Pennsylvania that voted for Trump. And he's saying that the Democratic Party is completely failing their constituents, which, I mean, I'm going to agree with that as well. So
it makes you trust the guy because he says things that are like, oh, I know, there's a sense of honesty about this.
Yeah.
So,
but in whole, even if Democrats came out and told people in these anonymous interviews, they're not going to put it in there that Democrats think that the president is in crazy decline.
Oh, no, because they'll go after you. Like they're going after, I can't remember her name right now, but she was in charge of finance for the Democrat Party. She raised millions and millions of dollars for the Democrat Party and Kamala Harris, and now they are just trashing her. I was watching some videos with her today.
Now, mark my words, media will scrutinize Trump's every move health-wise.
Oh, yeah.
And they're going to come back and say, well, it's our duty because we didn't do it with Biden. So now we're going to make sure.
Dude, I hate that you're so right.
And that's what they're going to come back and say. Well,
it's our duty.
You were pissed at us for not doing it with Biden. It's our duty as media and journalists to give you the facts. And so we're going to make sure and do that with President Trump. I promise you. Mark it down at 10:30 Mountain Standard Time on December 22nd.
I hate how right you are. Because it's going to be annoying. That's why I'm saying I'm like, ugh, because it's annoying. Yeah. Like, just do your job all the time.
I promise you, they're going to be like, President Trump had McDonald's today. You watch. You watch.
Yeah, you're right. They are going to do that.
Which is why I think, it was kind of a hit piece.
John Ziegler.
I disagree. That I think this is a very legitimate
I could see it on this guy's
issue,
face. He
the
disagrees.
piece was sound.
Yep.
I actually would have focused a little bit more on why is it that Special Counsel Robert
He looked like he was smiling at that guy like 6 times right there.
Oh, he was.
Kerr's interview is being prevented from being public by this administration. To me, that is almost an admission of guilt that there's something amiss here. I did find it a bit humorous that we have to look behind closed doors to see that Biden's mental acuity may be declining. Has anybody watched him in public recently? It's pretty obvious that you don't need behind closed doors stories to
he's like, I agree.
Something is amiss. My biggest issue here, Dan, and I think this is the part that's being missed, is it's not about Joe Biden in 2024. He is running for re-election. If he is re-elected, he will be president in 2028. 4 years from now, the mental decline is going to be precipitous. Anybody knows anybody, especially men in their 80s, who start this decline. It's quite natural. There's no coming back from this. We need to be talking about what would Joe Biden be like in 2027, 2028. And it's not a good thing for the country to have somebody in that state as president of the United States.
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com.
Wow. It's so obvious. It's so bothersome, too, that it's so obvious, and they want to just deny.
I know. But that's the world we live in right now. So,
incredible stuff.
It is.
It's been a crazy week. Lots of crazy stuff going on.
And this is the stuff they want you to know about.
Right, right?
Yeah.
We haven't even talked to you about drones. The drone thing, it seems like it's dying down. Or I know they're probably not going away, but I think like everybody's just get tired of talking about it, tired of watching them.
Maybe. I know they're seeing a bunch on the West Coast now.
I saw a map of the world. Somebody was showing the world and showing little dots all over the place of all the places that there's been sightings recently. It was crazy. Then there was I saw a clip of, I think it was New Jersey cops shooting at them. And they were just shooting at them.
Oh, New Jersey cops.
Yeah. Yeah.
Illegally shooting at drones.
They were like,
or whatever they are.
Yeah. They were firing at them. They were taking shots at them.
Well, then didn't New Jersey or New Hampshire or one of those places over there just open up some kind of like Skynet surveillance program to watch the drones or something?
Oh, I don't know.
I think I saw that somewhere too. So I don't know. Why isn't it such a big deal anymore? And that's all we could talk about for a week and a half.
I don't know.
So it makes you wonder, what are they not letting us know about?
Plenty.
You know, I mean, we shot 2 of our own planes.
We didn't even get to that story.
I know. So there's all sorts of crazy things, but it is getting close to Christmas.
It is.
There's a lot to be thankful for.
Yep.
You know, friends, family. We're healthy.
Hey,
you know,
we're hanging in there.
We are.
So hopefully you're hanging in there too.
Yeah.
Everybody take care of each other. I'm not sure what our schedule is of when we're going to be going live here again soon.
Maybe right after Christmas.
Yeah. I got family in from out of town. It's been good to see all the kids and all that kind of stuff.
I'm glad.
Do you got family in town?
Not this year.
Oh.
So this year we are, normally we go on a family trip somewhere and use that as our Christmas present to our family, and we go somewhere. This year we're just going to hang out with the fam and go to my parents' house and enjoy a wonderful Christmas dinner.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Hey, we appreciate everybody sticking with us late on a Sunday night here at the Big Fat Podcast live stream. If you haven't subscribed already, consider it. Hit the like button. Help us out. We're getting these going. I hope to do many more soon, and hoping you guys all stay safe out there. And
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.